points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show, presented by Play Now, the official sports betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets, starts now.
Good afternoon, Winnipeg. Good afternoon, Manitoba. And for those of you joining us here live, wherever you are on the interweb, good afternoon and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. Despite what Mandy said on the intro, it is not Drew, Ezzy, and Dave. It is Dave Manouk in the host chair and Liz Hood in the analyst chair. So Liz, welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. I know you did one with Ezzy last year, so this is not your first show, but welcome to the first one of this season. How you doing?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm doing well, and I'm glad that you and I are here together. We chat tons at the rink, and it'll be fun for everyone else to hear kind of our back and forth about all things Winnipeg Jets, and who knows, maybe some Manitoba Moose too.
We might do some Manitoba Moose. You were in attendance yesterday at the Moose game, so you do know what you're talking about when it comes to the AHL club. But of course, we got to focus on the Winnipeg Jets. They did come out with a 3-2 win, bit of a character win, not without complete absence of loss. They lost Hayden Fleury. He blocked a shot in that second period, tested it out in the third to start, and of course left before the puck drop. So we don't know the status yet. We'll hear from head coach Scott Arneil from the Matt Frost Media Center. But maybe let's just start with kind of your takeaways from the first victory of the season for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, I think it's one of those ones where some great talent ended up winning the game for them with the nice Mark Scheifele game winner, which we'll get into there. But I thought for the first little bit with the game, it was kind of funny. I was joking that I felt like there was like a magnet in section 112 where it was like the first period, so much of the time was spent in the LA Kings zone. Winnipeg Jets had a lot of really good pressure shifts and all that sort of stuff. And then you got in that second period and the tables kind of turned a little bit. And that sounds a little bit dramatic because LA had some good looks in the first period as well, but they really looked good in the second. They were doing Jets were doing their best Manitoba Moose impression, right? The second period just wasn't looking so good for the Winnipeg Jets. And then in the third, there was a little bit of good and bad on both sides. And then, Winnipeg Jets obviously end up coming out on top.
Absolutely. And that's the way look, this is a very good LA team. And this is, I believe, their first. Oh, no, I guess they were in Vegas maybe for the second game. So they've been on the road, but they're a good team. And they're expecting to be in contention. We saw old Moose Jet player Jeff Malott, no relationship between him and Luke Shen. So not a surprise that they dropped the gloves. I know as I asked Morgan Barron, he wasn't going to drop them with Jeff Malott. But Malott was involved in the play as well throughout the course of the game. But, this was an important win for the Winnipeg Jets, I thought. I thought this was a game where they didn't have their best at all times. And there is, as I tweeted out to kind of end to set up the show, I said, we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because I think this game possessed sort of all facets of that. And my takeaway, especially with not Morgan Barron, because I thought Morgan Barron was excellent in the penalty kill role, and I think he's been excellent, period. But unfortunately for the Jets, you need more from Tanner Pearson. You need more from Cole Koepke. You need more from the triple N line, because that's supposed to be I wanted to call it the triple M line to get more out of them, but right now they're the triple N line, which is like a nothing thing right now. And so there were a couple of shifts here or there where there was a little bit of life, but for the most part, you kind of want to see a little bit more, because right now the Scheifele line has looked, quite honestly, they've looked incredible. They've looked rejuvenated to start this season. I thought we were going to see a second straight hat trick, which, for folks who know that I like to keep track of that, if you look at by seasons, the most they've ever had in 18-19 was 8. The last 3 years, they've had 5-6-5, I think, or whatever, some variation of that. But we were almost going to see 2 in 2 games. So who knew how many we'd see this throughout the course of the season list. But for me, you need more from your bottom 6. And right now, in my mind, and again, qualifier becomes that it's very early in the season. I'm not seeing enough from them. What about you?
I mean, I think part of the reason that you're bringing it up right now is because this was a concern that people had going into the season, right? It was a training camp question. It was a pre-training camp question of, we know what the Connor Scheifele-Velarde line can do at their best. And frankly, I think we're seeing them at an iteration of their best. Like you said, they've looked really good in this last little bit. And the Winnipeg Jets mantra for the last few years has been success by committee, right? Guys stepping up big when it matters and all that sort of stuff from deeper in the lineup. And there was some concern about not just bottom 6, bottom 9 kind of across the board. What are you going to do with these different players? And so going into today, they changed the lines a little bit, moved Nyquist, Iafallo, some of those guys around, right? And still not enough sauce there, right? And like you said, that top line, it looked good. And the question is going to be, are they going to keep that line together if this bottom 9 continues to not be able to put up a ton of 5-on-5 points on the scoreboard? Again, two games in, we're not trying to sound the alarm bells yet, but this was a question, and so far we're not getting any really, really positive answers, right? So that's why we're still asking it.
No, absolutely. And so the most important thing, and we talked about it on this morning's Legal Curve Hockey Show, which, of course, if you didn't listen to, you should have. But if you didn't listen to it, you can always download it after Liz and I are done, of course, on this live show. But one of the things that was, the Jets just need to kind of stay in it. Connor Hellebuyck was excellent again. I haven't looked at the stats yet. I will look at them eventually on Natural Stat Trick to kind of look at what his numbers ended up being and what his goals saved above expected were, unless you want to fact check it now, Liz, you can come up with that afterwards. But for me, I thought he was very good in the course of this hockey game and did what he needed to do, which is keep his team in it. And I thought that he already kind of looks like he's in mid-season form, which is not a bad thing for the Winnipeg Jets because, of course, especially while they're working out the kinks, this is going to be you're going to be very reliant on Josh Morrissey. You're going to be very reliant on that top line, and you're going to be very reliant on Connor Hellebuyck. Now, you don't want to burn these guys out. You don't want to use them so much that it's going to be, 3 months into the season and they're already exhausted. But it's pretty clear, again, with the ultimate qualifier that it is early, that you're going to need these guys to kind of be your horses.
Yeah, there are a couple of plays in particular in, the first period and then a bunch in the second as well, where I thought Connor Hellebuyck really showed some poise on secondary chances, like, a couple of rebounds, little things here and there where, a perfect example is the Kyle Connor goal from last game where he comes in on the breakaway shorthanded there, right? And he pots his own rebound, and Jake Ottinger didn't quite manage that puck probably as well as he would have liked. There could have been a lot of moments like that in today's game where there were some loose pucks or whatever, and I thought Connor Hellebuyck had a couple of good poke checks, a couple of really good, just calm-looking plays that helped kind of eliminate that secondary scoring chance. It's kind of a catch-22 because the defense should be contributing to not having those chances as well, right? And I didn't think that they did as good of a job of cleaning up the front of their net as they maybe would have liked as well. But I totally agree with you. I think Connor Hellebuyck had a strong performance. I was looking at some money puck numbers, not quite as strong of a goal saved above expected game as I would have expected. I thought that in particular in that first period, there were like 3 or 4 chances that came off of shots where, in that first period, LA didn't actually have that many shots, but the ones that they did were pretty good and rush chances and all that sort of stuff. But he's in the positives for the goal saved above expected for the second game in a row here. But he had a really good night, and he was one of the Jets' best players, as he often is, and was the 3rd star of the game, I believe. So there you go.
Yeah, although take that with a grain of salt. We picked the 3 stars. Not tonight, but I'm saying in general. So we sometimes...
Yeah, it was picked by one of us or our colleagues. So, do with that what you will.
Oh, was it? I didn't realize. I'd already left before, I guess, the selection had taken place. But at the end of the day, he is your MVP. He was the league MVP last year. So you're not going to be, we always say you don't make excuses for having the best goaltender in the world. And sometimes that has to be what you're relying on, especially like we said, in order for you to sort of tread water, in order for your team to start to bank points, because we've talked about it. Now you've gotten through the 2 teams that were playoff teams, and now you're on a run of like 9 of 10 that is going to be our teams that were not playoff teams last year. Now, at the same time, you still have to beat those teams. You can't just it's not a, collect $200 at when you pass go on the Monopoly board. It never is like that. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to, beat a team like the LA Kings, and now you can just kind of move forward. But we'll find out. Folks were asking if we have an update on Hayden Fleury. We do not have an update yet. I would suspect that it's probably a good sign that he came and tried to test it out, because he was thinking maybe I can still go. but obviously still the fact that he left, clearly not a good sign. We may get an update from Scott Arneil. If we don't, the Jets are skating tomorrow at 10 o'clock, so we may get an update. We would likely get an update tomorrow before they head on the 2-game road trip to New York and then to Philadelphia. So, I guess your thoughts on Nikita Chibrikov. One of the points we had on today's conversation when Kenny Weeb went to the buffet list and he joined us. Usually we have a guest on for half an hour, maybe a little longer. Kenny was on with us for about 40 minutes today. He was at the buffet. But one of the points he made was he needed to see more from Nikita Chibrikov because we were not seeing his, quote, style of game that we kind of came to associate with him. I thought it was a lot more representative today of his sort of template. What about you?
Yeah, I thought he looked better for sure. I'm glad you brought him up because he's a guy that I 100% agree with Kenny's take on that, where in the first game, it wasn't that he was necessarily bad, but there's a reason why a lot of Jets fans have been clamoring for him to be part of the lineup, right? He brings something kind of special and versatile to the group and just didn't see as much of that. But listen, home opener, big game with the club. You haven't played a ton of NHL games and you're still a kid playing on a line with Jonathan Toews, who's got all this, attention on him and all that sort of stuff. It's human to maybe have some nerves or what have you. And I thought he looked a lot more comfortable tonight. There were a couple of tonight. It's 3:00 in the afternoon. I'm so thrown off by that still, but you all know what I'm talking about. There were a couple shifts in particular that I really, really liked from Nikita Chibrikov that I thought exhibited a little bit more of the style of play that we know he likes to kind of come with. There were some good kind of reads on the boards where his stick kind of came into those puck battles on the proper side so you could fish it out and get it out to his line mates, little things like that are very indicative of this type of play that he kind of brings to the table. And there were some moments that I thought him and Jonathan Toews were looking to connect a little bit more like the way that we were hoping they would. So I think he's definitely kind of taking an upward trajectory right now. Couple of those Nikita Chibrikov-esque chances of those like Danny Heatley from the goal line shots kind of ripping around the net and stuff like that. We know that he'll take those sharp angle shots if he thinks that it's the right thing to do. And he had some good looks tonight. So I was really happy with the way Nikita Chibrikov played. And obviously I think there's more there, but it's game 2 and I think he's on the right track and looked better today than he did on Thursday.
Yeah, and one of the other things also didn't play a lot of hockey, right? I mean, got injured in January of this year with the Moose and hasn't played till the exhibition hadn't played any games. So I mean, you expect him to have a little bit of rust, and like you talked about, I mean, it's an expectation that you're playing with a guy like Jonathan Toews. You kind of almost are a little deferential, and I thought today he was a little bit more grabbing pucks and doing things with it that we're used to seeing him do, and be a little creative. So Kenny made the point, and I agree. It's not like it's his job and he doesn't have to worry about Brad Lambert or Parker Ford or someone else saying, hey, I want that job. So we'll see. The media, I should advise folks, are starting to roll in to the Matt Frost Media Center. And as soon as Scott Arneil steps up to the podium, we will pull ourselves out of the chat and we'll listen to Scott Arneil and what he has to say about tonight's game. But as I said, overall, my total thoughts are you got the win, you got the bank, the 2 points. It wasn't pretty. The PK came up again, was able to, for the most part, almost like the Jets like to be on the PK because it gives them shorthanded opportunities list. So that's something definitely that we were curious about. How would that run this year? How would the special teams and the power play also had some good looks? And I know they were 1 for 3 after the first period, but there were quite a few opportunities to how I thought they were looking a little more dynamic. And again, that's obviously largely because of Mark Scheifele. Oh, here's Scott Arneil. We'll come back with that after we hear from the Jets head coach.
How he is, see how he's doing.
How would you describe the start of the year Mark Scheifele's had?
Yeah, he's our leader. He's one of our leaders, and he's not only having to do a little bit more with Lau being out, the leadership in the room, but play on the ice has been really good, and he's certainly driving some offense there.
Scott, when you face a team like LA, how much do you preach patience to your guys to capitalize on those unlikely moments?
Yeah, they're a big, heavy team, and we knew that. I think I said to you guys the other day that didn't like our sort of that battle part of it. I thought tonight it was great. I thought we did a great job with it. We were real good in the first. They were a lot better in the second. I thought third period was one of our best periods, where it was really a lot of commitment to playing how we need to play all the time. And those games, you got to stay in them. Obviously your goaltender has to help you out. Our PK was fantastic. but we had a lot of really good chances as well. And then, you know what, it comes down to a moment, and Scheif's tip was that moment.
Can we talk about that last stretch of the game where you get, I
The
think,
2.5 minute one?
yeah. How'd you get through it?
You know what, but it's more about packing it in. They're dead tired. And then P got out there and they pulled their goalie. It's just, you're already tired. It's shot lanes. It's the commitment to, you're gonna have to get in front of a couple like we did. And then the other side of it, when those shots get into Helly, then there's going to be rebounds. You got to find a way to whack them, to get them out of the net front. And they had big bodies around there. I just thought we did a really good job of just keeping to the outside. And I think when you block one or two shots, now they're trying to make more plays. They don't want to get their shots blocked, but at the end of the day, there was some really good things, just digging in and finding a way.
I think Stanley had 3 blocks, and then Scheif just said that he took a pass block off the head or helmet at one point too. What did you see from him today?
From Stan? Yeah, no, I mean, especially when you drop to 5D, everybody has to drive up their workload, and I thought those guys were good. Like I said, LA's a big team. They heavy on the forecheck. It's big about them trying to get to the net front. We put a lot of emphasis on trying to get sticks. One they got, obviously, but at the end of the day, it was a lot about using our size, and that's where Stan comes in. He had to run into a few of those guys. So that's, him and Luke, you have to tip their hat to them in those type of games. You need their size.
And then what was happening at the face-off circle that led to so many of those long delays and all those?
You want me to get in trouble here? Second game of the year.
Was there something they were trying to focus?
Yeah, I'm not sure. You're right. I agree with it. I'm not sure what I think early in the year they're trying to make sure that everything's done right and correct. Probably as the year goes on, it kind of drops off a bit, but it was taking a little longer than normal, and I just think the referees are just trying to get themselves kind of making sure the players are doing whatever it is they want us to do, and that's staying behind the lines, that's the timing of who comes in first, those type of things.
Scott, I wanted to ask about the goal that Mark Scheifele scored to put you guys ahead 3-2. He talked about that shift and how good the puck support was. What did you see on that shift that was the game winner?
That's exactly what it was. Staying over top of pucks, getting on the right side of pucks. We had to obviously making sure that we did the right things there, and then Bear did a real nice job of pushing that ahead. But at the end of the day, that's driving it to the net. You never know what happens. He probably was. I think he was trying to make a pass, but at the end of the day, him driving that, like we saw Barron the other night on the shorthanded goal, taking the pucks to the net. Those are the hard places to go, and that's kind of rewarded on that one.
And the eventual game winner.
I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry,
no,
I got my wrong
too.
one. That one, yeah, same thing. Getting inside. We lost. We looked. Went back and looked a little bit at some of the stats, some of our notes from our LA games last year. And the big thing that kept jumping out was not getting inside against them. And they've got some big D, and they're trying to do what we try to do, keep the outside. And I thought we did a really good job of getting to the net front on Kemper. Scheif getting there, he won his race to the inside and kept his stick free. Sometimes you're going to get boxed out. Other times, if you can get your stick loose like he did, that was a great tip, great shot. Certainly what we needed to do against a team like that.
Penalty killing tonight, especially at the end there. Just kind of your thoughts on your guys tonight on that side.
Yeah, the other night and tonight. I've been very impressed. We obviously Dino put some work into it. A couple of things we've kind of changed a little bit, but new personnel, some different bodies. So I do like our pressure, recognizing where where the opposition's trying to get to with their primary shot or their primary attack. And we've been taking it away. And then once these shots, rebounds, those type of things happen, we've been able to be the first of those pucks. And the other side of it as well, we've won a lot of draws. We've done a good job winning draws, and then getting the clears from those.
This last thing, Josh was talking about you guys haven't spent a lot of time working on 6-on-5 quite yet. I mean, I've heard that it's really difficult to plan that and make it be efficient. Did you must have been happy with just kind of that whole sequence toward the end.
Yeah, well, we had the one big day there, I think it was 4 or 5 days ago, where we did just that, 6-on-5, 5-on-6. But the difference is it's hard to, have an idea who's coming out on the ice most of the time. but each team kind of has different looks to it. They have a lot of lefties in their group, so we kind of knew where the one-timers were coming from, try to set it up that way and kind of line up against that. But, yeah, it's just as the season goes on, and they can happen in the first period, the second period on a delayed penalty, so you got to know what to do. And it might be your fourth-line guys, third-line guys. Everybody has to be prepared how to play those situations. And I think as the season goes on, you get a little bit more video from it. You get a little bit more coaching and teaching that you can do as you get longer and longer into the season. Good. Thank you.
There he goes. Head coach of the Winnipeg Jets, Scott Arneil. So not a surprise. I mean, he's pleased with the way his troops overall were able to, gutsy out that win, and plenty of praise for Mark Scheifele and his group, right, Liz? Because we saw from what they were able to do that they were pretty good. So anything from the coach that kind of caught your ear as you were watching or listening?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think he gave some love to the special teams. And I like when the comment about kind of the 6-on-5 situation too, where, in this particular game, it happens at the end because it's a 1-goal game, whatever, as it often does. But he mentions that, you don't always get to control who's out there for that because of delayed penalties and stuff like that as well. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they can continue to grow in that area, just with the, penalty kill looking pretty good, the power kill vibes kind of up and higher than they've been in the past and stuff, right? So I'll kind of be keeping my eye on that. But I think as always, great comments from Scott. A lot to say today. He seemed chatty. It's maybe it's not 10 o'clock at night, so he's got some more energy.
He was maybe well, yeah, he gave Connor a bonus answer because Connor was asking about the Scheifele third goal. But he also answered about the second goal for the Winnipeg Jets, Scheifele's first goal of the game. All right, well, with that in mind, let's get into the Play Now game recap.
The Play Now game recap.
Bet with Play Now, the official betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets. Sign up and get up to $250 in bonus bets. Conditions apply. 18+. Enjoy responsibly. Well, it was a good start I should say, it's funny. Originally I was going to say, well, it was a good start for the Jets, but it wasn't a great start because right off the hop, they did give up a grade A chance that Connor Hellebuyck had to make a real good save on. But it was after that kind of initial breakdown, I thought they came out the right way. And again, no surprise, it was the Scheifele line that kind of set that tone. But they started off the game in a good way. With the exception, like I said, with the exception of that grade A.
Yeah, no, I think the first whistle of the game, I think, was like 14 seconds in or something like that. And those the first 14 seconds after, it took about 45 to drop the puck. And we're like, what's going on? Little did we know it was a precursor of things to come. But yeah, I was like, oh my goodness, I don't know how this is going to go. But it ended up having a couple of really good shifts, like you said, kind of led the charge by that top line early in the game there to ensure that first period was a lot of time spent in front of Darcy Kemper as opposed to Connor Hellebuyck for sure. Well,
and the other thing that it was funny because you mentioned the 14 seconds and the unusualness of the faceoffs, and it became, I mean, obviously Murat asked Scott Arneil about it, and he didn't want to touch it because of course he doesn't want to get a fine, but it was very unusual. I have to say, like throughout the course of the hockey game, like being in the building and then watching the third period on the television, I just thought it was very bizarre. And I understand like wanting, but like it's kind of like, to me that's preseason stuff. Like we're trying to figure some stuff out where we're trying to make sure everybody's like doing it the right way. And I just thought it like even like the Nyquist Malott thing where they're kind of like jockeying with each other and getting into it. And then Shen came over, and this is obviously after their tilt. But I just thought it was like, it was almost creating a distraction. Like I understand like you want it to be a certain way, but it seemed like when you're noticing linesmen and how they're dropping pucks, it's really not an element of the game that we're supposed to be watching.
No, 100%. It's so funny. I watch a lot of volleyball, and that's the thing in volleyball a lot where it's like you have a ref, and if you know who's reffing the game, you're usually like, okay, I probably shouldn't be knowing who's reffing because you can turn it into a show, and I feel like that's kind of what happened. And Jonathan Toews in particular seemed almost like irate about it. Like it was just really weird how it just kept going too, right? So it's like, the second or third one, you start noticing a bit of a pattern. You're like, why is this happening? And by the third period, you're looking around for office style mockumentary cameras. You're like, why is this happening? Like, what? Am I going crazy? But props to Scott for his answer on that, because like you said, he's not looking for any trouble with the league here, but it was a little bit odd.
Well, the Jets are the team that strike first, and I'm going to give credit to our colleague Connor Rabchak, because Connor had a funny tweet, which I'm going to read out to the folks who don't follow him on with respect to this. But I mean, the fact of the matter is that one of the things that Drew and I talked about on this morning's show was the idea that the Jets power play needs to be a dangerous element for them to be able to kind of get going as a team. And so Connor had a funny tweet. He said, when they say AI is coming for your job, I had no clue it was regarding Ehlers' spot on PP1, of course, referencing Alex Iafallo and his ability to get open and score a beautiful goal. But the power play one had really good movement. And just before they scored, that was one of the comments I'd made to Connor, was I just thought they were really controlling the puck. And that's part of the element of chemistry. And it's interesting to me because it almost was like Alex Iafallo was shocked he had that much time to, and obviously he had an option to dish it over to Mark Scheifele and get him a one-timer. But Joel Edmondson just kind of basically backed off of Iafallo, left Kemper almost like out to dry, and then Iafallo made no mistake and buried the goal.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was a goal where you can look at what every single player kind of on the ice was doing and really dissect how the events kind of came together to allow Alex Iafallo to have that much space in the middle of the ice. And I give props to Gabe Lillard, the puck carrier, and then he obviously gives it to Kyle Connor. Both of them kind of had guys tied up with them. And then Anze Kopitar makes, perhaps you could almost call it the wrong read of backing up to take away the pass towards Josh Morrissey, who's wide open. And you see a lot of that on power plays, right? Where there's obviously a mismatch of numbers of skaters. So oftentimes penalty killers have to make a call. If there's two guys and there's two lanes or two situations, you have to choose kind of the one that you think is going to create the most danger there. And whether it's Josh Morrissey being the guy dishing out the puck because Mark Scheifele has some space on the wall there, or, Alex Iafallo being in the pop there, he kind of had to make a call, and perhaps it was the wrong one in that situation. And he had all the time in the world, right? And it was almost like it happened in slow motion for a second, but he made no mistake with the way he positioned that puck, and he was able to score and put the Jets on the board there.
If I only had one criticism, as I tweeted out, it's that he no longer has nothing but a good thing for his goal song, a song by 80s band Poison. Now he goes, what is it? It's Kim Mitchell? No.
It's Go For Soda, yeah, by Kim Mitchell. Yeah. Didn't he have You Gotta Fight For Your Right to Party at some point too?
Oh.
I feel like that was his last year. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he had. I know he had Poison at some point.
Someone in the chat can fact check us. Yeah, so many of these guys. Well, you know what? Moose Media Day a couple days ago there, Dave. Isaac Poulter told us that his goal, or no, someone else, I can't remember who it was, would be White Horse by Chris Stapleton, and Connor was like, "Oh, that used to be Logan Stanley's goal song," and I was so adamant that it wasn't. It fully was a couple of years ago. So maybe I don't know anything anymore. I'm second guessing all of it.
the WST crew is on point when it comes to, well, generally speaking, on point when it comes to the music selection for the players. Well, it wasn't a goal. It wasn't something that we have to keep track of. But Logan, it's funny, like one of my biggest criticisms in hockey, and I understand coming to the defense of a teammate, but when a guy has a good hit, having to answer for it, because Logan Stanley unloads on Alex Turcotte, clean hit, nothing wrong with it. Just the reality is a much bigger man versus a guy who's not as big. And so Turcotte gets, knocked to the ground, and Jeff Malott comes in, and then Luke Schenn comes in. And again, as I said, neither one of those guys has any real, I don't think, familiarity. One's an Ontario kid, the other's a Saskatchewan. So I'm not sure that there's much different generations. So I suspect there's no connectivity there. But I just thought it was interesting that, they had quite the tilt. But there were a lot of people that were excited to see Jeff Malott playing in this game.
Yeah, no, for sure. He's definitely a crowd favorite here in Winnipeg. Anyone who's spent some time around the Manitoba Moose has nothing but good things to say about him. And he's a guy that, when he left, it was kind of like you look at it like greener pastures, and not from Jeff Malot's perspective, but from ours, where it's like, hey, maybe there's a chance that he'll go somewhere and turn into something or whatever. And he got a little bit of a break early on in LA, and then he had his first career goal, and then he didn't, and it was called back. And we all remember that. But when he cracked the opening roster this year, I think a lot of people in Winnipeg were really happy for him. And he also does have a goal this year already, right? He's same amount of goals as many other NHL superstars. So who's to say? Maybe there's something more to come there from Jeff Malott. But no, he's definitely the type of guy who I think is looking for his particular role on the LA Kings. What's he going to bring to the lineup? What's going to keep him in the lineup? And a situation like that where someone like Alex Turcotte, who could be a really important part of this Los Angeles Kings team. He's still young. There's a lot of untapped potential there. Whatever gets crushed, like you said, by a much bigger guy, you're going to go and want to go after someone there. So I don't fault Jeff Malott for wanting to stand up for his guy there. Like you said, clean hit is what it is. But Luke Shen definitely won that fight. So we'll see what we will about that.
Yeah, his brother Mike is not going to be happy, the UFC fighter. But anyways, let's get away from fight night and get back into the game. So 14-7 of the shots after the first period. The Kings, I believe, controlled. I was talking to Connor, controlled the analytics because at 5-on-5, I should say, because they were shorthanded quite a bit. But overall, I mean, I thought the Jets played a pretty good game, a decent first period, especially again, they're slowly getting their special teams sort of in order, right? That's one of the things that we've said we were going to want to see how their power play, especially without Nikolai Ehlers, without Cole Perfetti. But Alex Iafallo definitely looks like he's fit in, and he does look like he fits in on that second line as well, right? Like he's a guy that we've talked about as a guy who's going to go and be a digger, and he's going to go get that puck, and he's going to go in the corner, and he's going to fight for it. So he looks like he's fitting in well, and we saw it last year when he had that opportunity to move up to the top line. So just maybe quickly, is there anything else from the first that you were thinking of, or pretty much that we've covered it?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think LA did control a good bulk of some of the metrics there, even though they didn't outshoot the Jets or anything like that. But it was kind of fascinating to me. After the first game, Scott Arneil talked about how they gave up 3 goals off the rush, and he said, that's not us, right? And that was kind of the thing. And LA didn't spend a ton of time in the Winnipeg Jets zone in that game. But again, that's why you got to watch the hockey game in order to develop your opinions on stuff. And it was because some of their best chances came off the rush. They didn't even need to set up because they were able to catch the Winnipeg Jets defenders on their breakout a couple times. So I was kind of alarmed by that in that first period, and it was a bit of a trend over the course of the game, but the first period was actually, in my opinion, the worst of it. They were able, in the second period, they did have more ozone time, and again, it was more that we had several shifts of like Los Angeles Kings ozone changes and stuff like that, like sustained pressure in the zone, but like in terms of what they created, there was a lot created off the rush in that first period, which is definitely not what the Winnipeg Jets were wanting.
Yeah, and so the Jets have the 1-0 lead after 20 minutes, but things took a turn, if you will, at least initially in the second period. Mikey Anderson with his first of the year from Drew Doughty and Adrian Kempe. Adrian Kempe had quite a role in the game. Actually, we should mention, Liz, that the Kings looked dangerous on the penalty kill. They had a couple of chances. Adrian Kempe had the shorthanded chance where he hit the post, and former or old friend, I shouldn't say former because maybe people still like him, Yoel Armia, who, as many folks here in Winnipeg remember, was always very good on the penalty kill. He said he had to steal off Vlad Nemesnikov, I believe, in the neutral zone and set up a nice opportunity. So where Taves had to kind of come in, and Hellebuyck made the initial save, and then Taves came in and made sure it stayed out of the net. So that was, there was, again, it wasn't perfect. There's some things that they need to work on, but moving in the right direction in the sense that they scored on it. However, like we talked about, the Kings, they get back into it. Mikey Anderson with the blast. I mean, I'm actually surprised it's still Mikey Anderson. I thought for sure that Andrei Kopitar redirected it past Connor Hellebuyck. I mean, he had the screen that he was in front, and it did look, from my perspective, that it was redirected. But how did you kind of see that goal?
Yeah, I mean, that was one of those ones that you could use a lot of like classic hockeyisms with it, where it's like it kind of felt like it was a matter of time for whether it was the Jets took another penalty or something like that, because LA just had a lot of sustained zone time there and stuff. And that's one of those classic examples that you show if you're talking about the whole idea of just putting pucks on net, right? Like, it wasn't an overly high danger chance. Connor Hellebuyck saw the puck enough. There wasn't a whole ton of traffic going on, all this different stuff. But it hits the right part of something, question mark still to be determined, and makes its way past Connor Hellebuyck. But it's very much like another hockeyism: can't shoot if you don't score, or can't score if you don't shoot, or whatever you want to say there. It was just, in that particular moment, I could go back and watch it, but I don't believe there was any like crazy high danger pass opportunity available there. Whatever, there was a lane, take the shot. Sometimes those go in, and it was more to me a manifestation of a lot of good LA Kings plays leading up to that. I wouldn't say that was their best play of the period or anything too crazy, but it was well deserved at that time because of how much they've been putting the pressure on the Jets, and Jets were kind of on their heels there, and then they tied the game up.
And so that was just 50 seconds into the second period. And like I said, the Kings they're a veteran team, right? So you've got guys like Kempe and Doughty and Kopitar, and they protect the puck so well. So even though the Jets, it was a 5-on-5 goal, the Jets had, equal numbers. Everybody was in the right position, but they just protect that puck, set up Mikey Anderson for that big shot. And as of right now, he's got the goal. We'll see if that stands, but it doesn't matter because about 8 minutes and about 50 seconds later, or a little bit less, 30 seconds later, I should say, Adrian Kempe, the guy who I just mentioned, he makes it a 2-1 game with a tip-in shot. And so you could feel the momentum in my mind, being in the building, you could just feel that the Kings were building momentum. But for me, Kempe deserved it because he made the play, just made a beautiful play in the neutral zone where he essentially alley-oops the puck to himself into the Jets zone, and then he goes from there, gets it over to Kuzmenko, who then gets it over to Kopitar, and then Kempe just is a smart player and goes to the front of the net and puts it in. But do you see anything on that one where the Jets had a chance to maybe change their fortunes a little?
Yeah, that's another one of those particular goals that the goal itself came a few seconds after the entry, but really nice entry there by Adrian Kempe. And it was actually, I think Dylan DeMello was the culprit there of just kind of, maybe it's a little bit too mean to say that he got cooked on that one, but he kind of did. And it's the sort of thing that's like, it's Adrian Kempe. I get that. He's one of the most fun, dynamic players in the league. So underrated, in my opinion, in terms of how much he's spoken about in mainstream circles. Fantastic hockey player. But Dylan DeMello gets caught a little bit flat-footed there, and frankly, so does Logan Stanley when Andrei Kuzmenko is the one making the play on the boards there to eventually get that primary assist. So not the best showing of the Winnipeg Jets defenders on that particular sequence, in my opinion, but it's also, again, sort of a two sides of the same coin thing where a couple of really talented offensive players really got their fortune there as well.
And that's, I think, to me, like, it's always easy to isolate one guy and say, oh, well, this guy, because he's the last player you watch, right? But if you really watch, like, Kyle Connor has the puck with almost very little threat at the blue line, and he loses it, right? So, he essentially steals the puck, kind of makes a soft play, which kind of allows Kempe to kind of get this thing going. Now, Nyquist doesn't play it well either. He basically, like, this is what I'm talking about when we talk about, and Scott Arneil said, we have to play as a 5-man unit because it's not about what one guy does. It's what about all 5 guys are doing. Well, so Connor makes the soft pass backwards. Kempe's coming with speed and momentum. He brings it into the zone, and then Nyquist doesn't take anybody. So it's not, again, DeMello, you're right. He's the one who kind of ends up kind of like Edmondson on the penalty kill for the Kings, where he's stuck in no man's land, but he's in between 2 guys. So, and again, I'm not making excuses. It's just a function of, that's just, to my mind, that's the reality of what we're seeing with these guys. So, the Jets are now down 2-1, and you can kind of feel that momentum shifting a little bit. And the Kings, although it was very unusual in the sense that the shots on the clock weren't adjusting particularly fast. I thought LA had the better of that, but for whatever reason, the people who were keeping track lists, they were not similarly inclined to think that it was something of that nature. So, anyways, second period winding down. Hayden Fleury, like we said, he blocks the shot, and you can see right away that he was in some pain. So he stayed out. So you're like, okay, well, that's maybe not necessarily the worst thing. But just before that, we should mention, of course, Mark Scheifele, his first of the season with 1 minute and 3 seconds to go. And I don't want to say it was absolutely critical, and that if the Jets had been down 2-1 going into the third, they couldn't have come back and won that hockey game. But for having not played a particularly strong period and to get out of it tied 2-2, pretty significant. And that's a real fortunate hometown bounce that he gets, just kind of driving in a nice play. No surprise, not a shorthanded one because the Jets had just been shorthanded, but Morgan Barron, who gets an assist. So he looks like he's just going to get special teams points this year. That's of course a joke, but his first assist of the season after he intercepts the puck and gets it up to Mark Scheifele, and then Mark Scheifele gets the friendly assist from the Kings. But more hard, and I gotta say, Les, and I'm interested in your opinion. I like seeing Scott Arneil using Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele in the last 30 seconds of a penalty kill, in order to try and generate offense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that particular instance, Morgan Barron, I'm having to remember how this sequence kind of went, but he makes what I would call a veteran play there, right? Where he manages that puck to get it out of the zone really well there. And I believe at the time that puck was being played, they were still on the penalty kill. And then as soon as he gets it out, because Kyle Connor joins them from the box, right? And it turns into like an odd man rush with the guy coming out of the box and Mark Scheifele's the puck carrier. And it's almost like he's looking for options and doesn't really get a chance to do anything with them because he gets hooked up and then ends up just like taking the puck to the net and it goes. And we're like, oh my gosh, it's kind of giving the Danny Zhilkin goal from the Manitoba Moose game yesterday where it's like, hey, a goal's a goal kind of thing. But Morgan Barron's been really trusted in these first two games with whether it be important D-zone draws, penalty kill draws, all that sort of stuff. And I think it's a testament to what the team thinks he's capable of, that, the shorthanded goal last game that we talked about, obviously. But that assist there, like that's a really, really nice controlled play to get that puck out. We saw a couple times over the course of this game when the Winnipeg Jets weren't able to get a good clear when they definitely should have, when they had a little bit of possession in their own zone, maybe a couple of miscues here and there. That's a situation where easily he could have kind of fumbled that, taken too many seconds to make a decision to try and maybe wait to hit Kyle Connor coming out of the box or something like that. But he gets the nice little pop out and away he goes and they're off to the races. And Mark Scheifele ends up with a bit of an unlikely goal there. But like you said, huge momentum change with the minute left there to kind of almost get out of that period, with just a minute left there, tied when the scales were tilted a little bit more heavily in LA's favor.
And let's remember that it wasn't as if he did it against a guy who's not very good. He did it against Quinton Byfield, who's a young player, of course, in this league. I'm talking about Morgan Barron specifically on that play in order to get the puck up to Mark Scheifele. So real nice play. And credit Mark Scheifele because I think it was Mikey Anderson went heavy into the boards after trying to prevent that goal, and Scheifele checked on to make sure, that he was okay. So 2-2 after 2 going into the third. And as I said, the Jets get a chance to have Hayden Fleury test out his whatever it seems to be bothering him. I'm not going to say it was his leg or his ankle I didn't see specifically where he got the puck. I haven't watched a replay on it yet, so I'm not entirely certain, List, but regardless, he something lower body. He tested it out. We kind of heard the comments from Scott Arneil. What did he say exactly? He said that he's still being evaluated, I think is what he said.
Yeah, I kind of missed that a little bit, so I'm not 100% sure what he said, but comes as no shock. I wasn't expecting to get like a crazy, super solid answer today. I'm sure we'll get something a little bit more concrete tomorrow.
Right. And so that is one of those situations where you're sitting there going like, and then in the third period, I thought, again, let me just look at how many penalties the Jets took in the third period because the Jets were on the PK they had 3 penalties. And of course, Joel Armia, I was going to call him Yoel, but someone said he's no longer going by that. Maybe he's going for that West Coast Joel Armia, but he is now Joel Armia, according to one of the folks in the chat who I'm going to believe. And so he takes a penalty, which on Mark Scheifele, by the way, who was very noticeable in the game. So was Gabriel Velarde, against his former team. So that makes sense. But, Mark Scheifele with the nice play with Josh Morrissey in the box for hooking against Anze Kopitar that Scheifele gets held up by Joel Armia, and that kind of nullified that. But the Jets did have 2 penalties to kill. Of course, the Neil Pionk roughing one against Clark, and then Tanner Pearson. Can we talk about a more improbable penalty than Tanner Pearson having it essentially an empty net, doesn't bury it, and then somehow takes a penalty on Adrian Kempe?
Connor and I were at like a loss for words. We're sitting there. We're like, because it's almost like one of that, like a 1-2 punch of reactions there, where you're reacting to the first thing of like, oh my gosh, how did he not get at least some form of like attempt on the shot here, whatever. And then the penalty, like within the 2 seconds afterwards, you're like, oh my gosh, that's objectively kind of hilarious.
Yeah. And credit to the penalty kill, and we're going to give Logan Stanley some credit, and all those guys like Vlad Domestikov, they were good. And as Scott Arneil said, they packed the box. They didn't. They tried to nullify any real good opportunities on Connor Hellebuyck, but that couldn't have been easy because that was a full onslaught by the LA Kings as they were fighting to tie this game. And before, of course, we talk about them trying to tie the game, we got to give some credit to the guy who scored his 60th game-winning goal of his Winnipeg Jets career, which of course ties him with, no surprise, Kyle Connor, who also has 60 game-winning goals. But Mark Scheifele with just a masterful redirection of the Josh Morrissey shot. And I just thought, similar to the power play, the unit was playing really well in the Kings zone. And Mark Scheifele, Josh Morrissey had to kind of be aggressive to get that puck. And then when he does, he gets it over. And I mean, you have to imagine that Morrissey and Scheifele have so much chemistry that he was doing that with the intention. And we haven't heard, I don't know if Josh Morrissey was one of the guys talked to after the game, but you have to imagine that the intention was to get it to Scheifele in order to get that redirection.
Oh my gosh, it had to have been. When you watch the puck, oh my gosh, I'm muting right now. But when you watch that goal from, in particular, the back angle, the camera from behind Josh Morrissey, that puck's not going anywhere near the net, right? That's going totally wide on and right towards Mark Scheifele's stick there. And it's one of those things that, good fortune that Mark Scheifele is a right-handed player in that situation because he's able to get the stick on the puck there that he wants to. And if I'm an LA Kings fan, I'm saying Cody Ceci. Oh my God, come on. You're right there, right? And that's always the thing about when you're managing a shooting threat or a threat of some capacity in front of your goaltender. It's how are you positioning your body to isolate that threat a little bit more and neutralize it and take that stick away, right? I know it's such a classic hockeyism, but there's a reason, right? That is the most dangerous weapon in that particular scenario. And you can see, I think there's a freeze frame where Cody Ceci almost tries to glove the puck, he's reaching for it because Mark Scheifele is able to, get just a gorgeous deflection on that, right? As we've all seen that goal a couple times now. It's kind of a balance of two things happening at once, where it's a defender who's not necessarily the best defenseman in the entire National Hockey League and one of the more elite, offensive players. And like Mark Scheifele himself said at the end of a game, not a big tipper. That's not really his mantra. It's not really his style of game. But look, good hockey players. There's a reason why he's been, one of the most highly touted centers for, much of his career here. He's a fantastic hockey player. And that was just such one of those dudes rock moments where it's just an unbelievable play to really get some life into this team and put them up there.
Well, restaurants in Winnipeg are hoping he's a good tipper, but as you said, it's not his forte, so I couldn't resist that one. Sorry. And shout out to Dean T, who's checking in from Milan, Italy. Says, Icy keeping me up to date on the Jets and Moses news. I hope he means Moose news. I don't know if there's any Moses news to bring him up to date on, but we're bringing him up to date on the latest with the Moose, and we'll maybe listen. I'll do a little bit of Moose talk after the break, but the fact of the matter is, so welcome to Dean and welcome to everybody else. This, of course, is the Illegal Curve post-game show. I'm Dave Manouk. This is Alyssa Hood, and we are discussing the second game of the year with the Jets winning 3-2 over the LA Kings. We've just gone through all 5 goals, and hopefully you're enjoying today's broadcast. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you are subscribing to this channel because we don't just do post-game shows. We don't do just Saturday shows. We, of course, bring you all the latest from the Jets and the Manitoba Moose whenever we're doing interviews, and those are always featured on our YouTube channel. So in order for you to know that they're there, hit that subscribe button and you will be up to date on all that is going on with Illegal Curve. So the Jets, as we touched on a little bit, we should mention Alex Iafallo. He takes that shot off the hand, which, by the way, I don't know how they called it a hand pass, since it was basically like
that
a
was
shot
so funny. Oh my gosh.
I'm like, so you just called it a hand pass, but really he just blocked it with his hand. But regardless, so they blew the whistle. He seemed fine. He kept playing. Really gutsy, really good penalty kill, as we've touched on already. We don't have to get into that anymore. But, maybe kind of a final thought, and then we'll go to break on the Jets picking up their first win of the season.
Yeah.
You're good.
Oh, sorry.
than,
Yeah,
like-
no. Sorry that my light started flashing there for a second. But yeah, no, I think I watched that goal again a couple more times, and it's just, oh man, what a fun way to kind of wrap up the scoring of this hockey game, where it's like we said, kind of the narrative of the story goes back and forth a couple times. A little bit of LA Kings, a little bit of Jets there, but what ends up being the difference maker is a talented player doing talented player things, and it's just tons of fun to watch if you love watching hockey.
It is indeed. So, which everybody, of course, I would hope in this chat loves watching hockey. We also love thanking our sponsors by throwing it to them. So we will take our first and only commercial break on the Illegal Curve post-game show, and we will be back right after these words from our sponsors.
We want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling sites instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime, visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre. Holt Dental, the new official dentist of Illegal Curve, has a philosophy rooted in two unyielding principles: genuinely caring about patients and providing outstanding service. Being a patient of Holt Dental means more than just checkups and treatments. It's taking the time to listen and talk to each patient so they can achieve the best long-term health, functionality, and aesthetics for their teeth, mouth, and gums. Conveniently located at Grant Park Festival on Taylor Avenue, Holt Dental is dentistry of the highest quality in a comfortable and relaxed environment. For more information, visit holtdental.ca. Oh, and there's plenty of free parking at the front door too. Celebrating its 40th year as Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best and most affordable live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For more information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
So you're a pizza person, you married a wing person, but somehow your kids are salad people. You can't pick your fam, but you can pick your BP meal deal, starting from $18.99 for takeout or delivery at bostonpizza.com.
Welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show. I'm Dave Minuk. That's Liz Hood. We're chit-chatting about the Winnipeg Jets and the LA Kings. The Jets pick up a big 3-2 victory. Now are 1-1-0 on the regular season. The Jets will head out on the road where they'll take on the New York Islanders. That's when you can next join us on a broadcast after the Jets and Islanders game. Probably the same time, Liz, because it's the same time of day on Monday. So that's when that Illegal Curve post-game show will be coming your way. And then, of course, they play in Philadelphia, relatively normal time. I think we go back to 6 o'clock on Thursday in Philly. So, and then they're back here for a Saturday night game against the Nashville Predators. And then I believe they're back on the road. I'm not entirely certain. I can only keep 2 or 3 games in my head at once, and then we'll move on. But any final thoughts for you from this game? And then maybe we'll have some Moose thoughts, and then we can wrap things up.
Yeah, I mean, I think just kind of 2 games into the season here, people had some questions about the defense, and I don't think those questions have necessarily been answered yet, and there could be some more developments to come. If Hayden Fleury is perhaps injured, we'll see what happens there, and also just, frankly, not everyone being super, super pleased with necessarily the most stellar performances from this D group so far. A lot of rush chances being created and all those different things. I think what I'll just be looking for over the next day of practice and then heading over to New York on Thanksgiving Monday will be if they continue to run with this same D group. And then on the flip side, up with the forwards, again, that bottom nine not necessarily giving us much to write novels home about. Seeing if guys like Parker Ford or Brad Lambert get their first action of the year. It'll be interesting to see if we get any lineup, roster, anything like that changes for Monday.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that, and I think that it'll be interesting to see if a guy like Colin Miller gets in, because one of the things that we said, the benefit of guys who are essentially somewhat all you can mix and match them, and it's not a huge drop off one way or the other, which maybe is damning with faint praise, but the fact is that you could probably have a guy like, I think Colin Miller is underutilized personally, but that's my own personal opinion. And I just think like you could get a guy like him. Now the question becomes, especially if Fleury is a question mark, we'll know this answer, but are the Jets going to make a recall? Because they are going on the road. And if there's a question mark with respect to the defense, would if Fleury's skating tomorrow at 10 o'clock, then we don't have to worry about it. And it's not an issue really. But if he isn't, then the question becomes, will you call up Ville Heinola? Will you call up Cal Clegg? Are you going to keep it to a left side guy? We'll find that out, of course, tomorrow. So stay tuned to thelegalcurve.com. We'll have you up to date on that information. But it'll be interesting to see what this team does as they head out on the road for a couple of games against Eastern Conference opponents. Well, let's talk about an Eastern Conference opponent that was in the building last night, because they were the best team in the AHL, coached by Pascal Vincent, who is a favorite of us on this show. And so from your perspective, you were in the building last night, you watched, we saw Braden Yager score his first ever goal as a pro. We saw Colby Barlow set him up. We didn't really kind of talk about that, but it was a nice pass by Colby Barlow. And of course, a lot of the role players played big roles in Walker Dewar was really good. Jared Anderson Dolan was really good. So from your perspective, kind of what was your takeaway from the first game of the Manitoba Moose season?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have been really excited about the group and how it looks on paper, kind of coming out of Winnipeg Jets training camp. They, fingers crossed, they got pretty lucky with the waiver wire this year, where there were a lot of players that were able to clear through waivers after being cut from Jets camp and now are on this Manitoba Moose roster. It's deep. It is deep.
One second. We got to do this before you. I just realized I didn't do this. 1 second.
Put on your antlers. It's time for the Minute Moose Minute on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
Got upset with me when I didn't run the Manuk Moose Minute bumper. So I better make sure, when I'm at the helm, there's no excuse not to do that type of thing. I mean, we can talk about the Moose, but I had to make sure I ran that one in. So sorry for interrupting. Please continue your thought on the Moose.
Well, here we go. It's a Manuk Moose Minute. I feel honored to be part of it. Extended, yeah, because I can't do anything. Never just minute with me. It's always minutes, plural, when I talk about the Manitoba Moose. But no, I think that forward group looked exactly the way a lot of us were hoping they would. There was a lot to really like about the youth pieces. You mentioned Colby Barlow to Braden Yager on that gorgeous goal there. That happens only 2.5 minutes into the game. Really monkey off of Braden Yager's back of that first pro goal, right? So that was really fun. But, you mentioned by name Walker Dewar, Jared Anderson Dolan. I want to give them some flowers too. Like, those are some guys, Jared Anderson Dolan in particular, where it was just like, holy smokes, he had a couple of puck retrievals in his own zone that were just so calm and poised that created some nice breakouts. And we know that this group could also have, well, obviously David Gustafson will likely draw into the lineup, if not tomorrow, then when they head on the road, because he cleared waivers yesterday. And then they also have, Nikita Chibrikov, Brad Lambert, Parker Ford could join them at some point as well. I thought everyone looked really good. I thought, Samuel Fogimo, that was our first game of seeing him in action. I thought that there was a lot to like there. Danny Zhilkin kind of back into the early stages here. We saw him in the prospect tournament and he looked really good. And we're like, all right, is this a heater or is Danny Zhilkin going to be kind of unlocked here? I thought he looked really good in that game as well. I really want to give some love to that forward group because I thought that they all had a really fantastic, fun game to watch yesterday.
Yeah, and I think it's going to take some time for the D group to kind of get used to each other. The only guys who really had any familiarity were Ashton Sautner and Tyrell Bauer, and Tico Napoli's in the chat, so I have to mention Tyrell Bauer. That's an obligation. But it was funny because Dominic DiVincentis, who had an excellent game, the Jets goalie prospect, he ends up being named the first star. But I thought he was great in the game, and but it was funny though because at one point Bauer gets called for a penalty, which I thought they were calling on Sautner. And so Bauer's got his head and he's talking to the ref and he doesn't realize that the player is kind of giving it to DiVincentis. And I remember saying to Kelly Moore, who was sitting beside me at that point, I said, "Oh, it's a good thing that guy doesn't realize that Bauer doesn't realize what's happening right now, because he will absolutely destroy the guy for going anywhere near his goaltender." So that was probably lucky for that guy on the Laval Rocket. But the Moose come up with a big win, and we talked to Daniel Fink about it. How much you can just sense the optimism, and it just feels like the group is. When I watch them practice at Hockey for All or whatever, there's a lightness to the team, and it makes sense because it's a new team and there's new players. But there's still a lot of guys who were there from last year. And you can just sense that team is ready to kind of, go on a bit of a run here. So we'll see them tomorrow afternoon, and then they head out on the road, I believe, to Grand Rapids. So we'll continue the Moose talk there. But I think that's it for the Moose, unless you've got any final Moose thoughts before we
We'll
say
keep it at
abiento.
that. We'll keep it at that.
Okay. Well, then we will indeed keep it at that. And that is probably it for us on this show. So a big thank you to all of the sponsors of Illegal Curve who make the post-game show, the Saturday show, and the website illegalcurve.com a possibility. They are in no particular order. Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club. Jeff Dye is in the house. I don't know if there's any tickets left. Drew was talking about him this morning. Play Now, Holt Dental, City Place, Wheatland Hockey, Boston Pizza. Support these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve Hockey. All right. Well, we thank Liz for joining us on the first of potentially many shows this season, but we appreciate you joining us here. We appreciate the Moose talk, appreciate the Jets talk, and thank you for spending your time with us this afternoon. Thank you to you. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Any final thoughts, Liz, or are you done?
Yeah, no, I think this is a blast. Thanks for having me, Dave. It's always a pleasure to jump on, and I've hit Ezzy now, hit you. Maybe Drew and I will have to do a show at some point so I can complete the IC hat trick there.
But you have a show to promote for tomorrow, so why don't you promote your show for tomorrow that folks can listen to?
Yes, yeah. If you enjoy spending your Saturday mornings with Illegal Curve, then maybe you'll enjoy spending your Sunday mornings with Connor Rabchak and I over at Winnipeg Sports Talk. We'll go live tomorrow at 9:00 in the morning, like we do every Sunday. And hey, if you like the Dave Manuk Moose Minute, we have a couple of fun Moose features that we're going to play over the course of that episode as well. So we'll be there tomorrow at 9 a.m. like we are every Sunday.
All right, so there you go. Sneak peek. Which interviews are you? You want to let folks know? Get a little teaser as to who they can expect to hear from tomorrow.
We have 2 guys with the same first name and 2 goalies. So I will let you maybe do some math to try and figure out who we have on the show there. But those are my tidbits of some hints for tomorrow. And
excellent.
Actually, maybe I'm lying. I'm trying to remember which ones we've already played. But yeah.
All right. Well, you know what the point is. Tune in tomorrow morning to Liz and Connor. You can watch their show and you can listen to those interviews. And of course, if you don't get to catch them live, you can always watch the replay on the WST channel. And of course, this replay on the Illegal Curve channel. Well, that's it for this afternoon. So everyone have a great rest of your Saturday. Enjoy the day. The Jets got it out of the way. All the other NHL teams are still going to be occupying their time, but the Jets are doing you a favor. It's a beautiful fall day here in Winnipeg, or hopefully wherever you particularly find yourself. But we appreciate you joining us for this morning's Illegal Curve Hockey Show, the Illegal Curve post-game show. And there's going to be plenty more content on illegalcurve.com. But for now, that's it for myself, Dave Manuk. That's it for Liz Hood. We are out of here. So have a good rest of your Saturday, everyone. Thanks a lot.